I think something that almost all mentors should have in common is that they have something that you aspire to be.
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think Melissa and I actually both have a lot to say about this topic, and that is mentors. Finding a mentor, being a mentor, looking for a mentor. We have so much to cover on this super broad topic. But Melissa, I think my first point when it comes to mentorship is that I hot take, I think everybody should have a mentor.
I agree with you. But I also think that, it can look different for everybody. It could be like a formal mentorship, but it can also just be having those people in your life that have been there and done that you're friends with and that help you with those things. But I think it kind of circles back to boundaries too, right? So I definitely want to get into that today. Like, what are the boundaries that you should have with a mentor?
Yeah. And especially because I feel like we can explore both sides of exercising boundaries with your mentor. And on the flip side, exercising boundaries as a mentor, because both, I think, have a lot of really good points on how to have a mutually beneficial relationship with somebody that you look up to, or being the person that somebody else looks up to. First things first, Melissa, do you have an official mentor?
I don't know if she's official. I don't know. That's so funny. I think it is kind of official. It's like, what are we? It's like that question. I feel like I need to send her an email now and be like, what's the status of our mentorship? But yes, I have a mentor for sure. That's helping me through a lot of things in my business. And I think originally, she had, mentioned that she would be willing to meet with me on a regular basis. And I kept asking her, like, but what are you getting out of this? Like, I'm not paying you. I mean, I can pay you, but that wasn't what you offered. Right. And, she had mentioned that she feels like she gets a lot out of it as well, and that she learns from me. And so I think that circles back to what you said, Hannah, which is it mutually beneficial? And so I think that's why I'm like, is it a mentorship? Is it? I just, I definitely look up to her so much. Just, an amazing human. But it's one of those things where we never sat down and signed a contract like, oh, you will be my mentor and I will learn this and this and this from you, but has been absolutely instrumental in my business.
Well, and I think, so I actually don't have like an official mentor. There's a few people in my mind that stick out that I talk to on a regular basis that I have friendships with, or I have like an acquaintance relationship with, but they're people who I think something that almost all mentors should have in common is that they have something that you aspire to be. And there's a quality about them that you are looking for in yourself, or maybe you already have it in yourself and you're kind of looking for how to achieve that and how to get from point A to point B. And that's why people find mentors, because they see people that they look up to and they think, okay, how can I have the qualities of this person that caused them to have this success?
I'd also like to explore, like, what is the difference between like a mentor and a business coach? Because I think that people tend to get them confused. And I think there's probably, an actual definition versus like what I think. But I think like, well, first of all, I think a mentorship does have more of a basis on friendship or being on similar levels. It's not, there's less of a power dynamic, I guess, in a sense for me when I think about mentors. And I do think that it is mutually beneficial. Whereas I think a business coach is a professional relationship, and that it's really on, it's a coaching relationship needs to be, I think, better defined with like performance driven goals and outcomes and a plan in place, right? Whereas, with a mentorship, I think it's really just more conversational, more maybe development related, where it's about developing yourself as a person and you're emulating this other person, right? Or maybe you guys are working through the same things together. But so I don't know if that's like the official difference, but that's kind of how I feel that difference is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you because I feel like a mentorship, exactly what you said, I feel like it's based more on a friendship level where you can talk personal, and I feel like it's maybe more of an organic conversation. Whereas I think a business coach is somebody that you hire to officially help with exclusively your business. And I think you can talk personal and relational issues with that person, but they are more of a hired, I don't want to say a hired help, but like, they're more of a hired coach to guide you. And whereas I feel like a mentor is definitely somebody that you can be a little more relaxed around.
And I will say that, like, as from like a business coaching perspective, like, for instance, like my contract specifically says that I don't deal with, personal issues that maybe need to seek help of like, a licensed therapist or a lawyer, or, there's certain things that legally you have to cover yourself as a business coach. But, on a mentor side, where, especially if it's unpaid and you're more of a friend, I think that those personal things can be on the table, and it's a little bit more appropriate because you're really asking for their feedback. Like if you're having issues, say in your marriage, because of the work that you're doing, or it maybe just has nothing to do with your work, but you're wondering, have they ever gone through something similar? That's a conversation I think you can have with your mentor, but I think it might be inappropriate to ask your business coach because, then you're asking your business coach about their marriage, and that's like, out of professional boundaries. So I think there's like certain conversations that definitely, are much easier to be on the table when it's a mentor. So definitely a lot of benefit there.
Yeah. So if you could name just off the top of your head 3 qualities that you think people should look for in a mentor, what would they be?
I think that you have to be similarly like aligned, right? Like you just have to get along, and they just have to be somebody that's easy for you to talk to. And I think a big thing for me is, I think discretion and having a level of trust too, because, if you're sharing certain things with this person, like you don't want them to say it, to share that outside of your relationship as well. So for me, I think it's somebody that you get along with, that you trust, and that really understands, I think either you or your business that maybe has been in a similar situation as you, or, just has that insight that you feel like would be beneficial to you.
I can't remember the exact phrase or the quote, but I see this quote sometimes on social media that says, never take advice from somebody that you wouldn't want their life. And I feel like that is a great quote when it comes to having a mentor. It's like, you're taking advice from somebody who you admire their life, you admire their work, you admire their relationships and the way they handle things, and you admire their success. I think there's a level of admiration that goes into a mentor, and that kind of goes into being a mentor. Even if it's, maybe it's somebody's a mentor for your entire life. It's somebody that you just look up to, kind of the full package, or maybe you have a mentor that's strictly for business, or a mentor that's strictly for, your personal relationships. And again, that kind of goes into boundaries, and maybe that's more of a therapist role. But I think admiration and having admiration for a mentor is a super duper important quality. And I have to agree with you. Trust is a huge one. Trusting that they're going to give you good advice and that they're going to be able to say, okay, been there, done that. Here's what I wish I had done. And here's some insight on what you should do. And I think another really important quality in a mentor is freedom. I think it's important for somebody to be able to say, as a mentor, you can say, I'm giving you advice. I'm telling you what I think you should do. But if you don't do that and you don't take my advice, that's okay. You're going to have to learn, or you're going to learn if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. And so I think having a level of freedom in there is also a really great quality to have in a mentor. Have you, kind of circling back to, because I have so much to say about this, and I know you probably do too, circling back to kind of our earlier 20s or our younger years, did you have a mentor, and what was that experience like if you did?
That's a great question. Yes. So in my former career, definitely. And it's so funny. She used to call me her mini me. And it was so true. Because we were so similar. But she was probably, 10 years ahead of me in a same career. And she just took me under her wing. And yeah, I would say definitely for sure. And that person's still actually one of my best friends to this day now. It definitely evolved from like, a professional relationship, like a mentorship, like work-based into friendship. And funny enough, actually, she has my dog right now. She's been keeping him safe and has been going above and beyond for me to take care of him while we've been in Central America. And she's actually today getting him to the transport team. And he's going to be on a plane on his way to Nicaragua. And yeah, and I think it's funny because I didn't think about that when we started this conversation, but just how that mentorship relationship can evolve. And it started just from a business perspective, but it's just something about, I think this is going to go into like definitely a rabbit hole, but women supporting women and just the power of having strong women around you that you trust, that are business minded, family minded, that are similarly aligned with the goals that you want in your life. Exactly what you said, like, don't take advice from someone if you don't want their life. But these are the people that have the lives that you're living, you want to live, and they support you and they love you unconditionally. There is nothing like having the friendship of just strong women around you. And if that's something that you don't have, it's never too late, because I'll tell you, it's just never too late to try to find those people. But yeah, that's definitely, I think the evolution of that mentorship just became honestly like a lifelong friend that I couldn't live without. And I wish that for everybody, for sure.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
When I was in my earlier 20s, my first job, my boss, I would definitely consider her my mentor. And she was such a good one to have because she was tough. She was very tough. And I learned a lot from her, but she and I ended up becoming very close. And we had this great relationship where, she really depended on me. And we got to the point where I had learned so much from her that she was able to depend on me. And I was kind of, I guess, rewarded in a way because I was so eager to learn, and I was so excited to learn, and I was so, willing to kind of roll with the punches, but also learn some hard lessons and learn some things the hard way. And those are always really unfun moments, especially when you're in your earlier 20s and you're not as confident and you kind of get humbled really quickly. But that was kind of my first experience with a mentor without me realizing it. And it ended up being such a great experience because she taught me so much about the industry that I was working in, and how it related to her family life and how she was able to balance it all, and how to treat clients and different things of that nature. There were so many different aspects that I learned from her without even kind of realizing that I was taking it all in as a mentee. And it was such that's an experience that I was so thankful for, because she was such a great mentor to have. And it's funny to look back on things like that. You're like, oh, wow, that really was kind of like my work mom. Like it can be hard because she challenged me to be my best self, because she knew I was capable, even though it was hard sometimes to learn things the hard way or to do something wrong. And there were times where I would do something wrong and she'd let me do it wrong and say, okay, now you're going to fix your mistake. How are you going to fix it? And to be turned loose like that, kind of thrown into the wolves, I'm so thankful for that experience. And I'm so thankful that she was able to mentor me so well that I became confident in, well, I know I'm not going to make a mistake because she taught me. So it was such a great experience, having a mentor like that.
Something you said there, like that she believed in you. And I think that is such a huge part of that. Right. And it almost makes me wonder, because I have never actively sought out a mentor. I almost wonder if mentors choose you because they believe in you, because that seems like in all of my experiences, I wasn't like, hey, do you want to be my mentor? I guess how do you find a mentor? And I just realized I've never found one. It's almost like they've found me. How do you feel about how our listeners, they're like, oh man, I want that. How do they get it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's that's so interesting that you say that, because you almost kind of get matched up by this person via the universe. And, whatever higher power anybody believes in out there, it's kind of funny how you kind of get given what you needed at the time. And it's crazy how things like that can fall into your lap. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's what an experience that I had. And it's actually kind of, I feel like it's one of those things where the universe is working behind the scenes to give you the lessons that you need.
I agree. I think the way to do that though is to get yourself out there, right? Because you can't find this person and you can't be matched with this person, or you can't stumble into these opportunities if you don't put yourself out there and start networking, start building relationships, start, making friends in the industry, right? Because if you're just at home working by yourself and you're never reaching out and making connections, then you're not going to find a mentor. But if you're active in the bookkeeping community, or if you're going to events for bookkeepers, or, trying to be a part of the community and contribute, then I think that it's going to be much more likely that comes your way.
Well, and I think another really, really important aspect of seeking a mentor or wanting someone to help you grow, it's not the most fun part of life, but you have to be able to call yourself out on your own bullshit. And I think, that's kind of it's humbling, and you have to be able to kind of take it sometimes, but understand that this person wants to help you and this person has the experience. And sometimes I think you have to look at yourself and say, okay, I'm looking for a mentor, but am I open to a new experience? Am I open to this uncomfortable growth? Because I think sometimes you have to get uncomfortable in order to not only grow as a business and grow as a person, but also evolve and be overall closer to that goal of being the person that you admire.
Are you like in my brain, Hannah? Because I was just having a conversation yesterday where I was explaining that some of the things that we were going to do is going to be very uncomfortable and that you have to grow through the discomfort to get to the other side where you can be in a comfortable place. And I think that's just such a big part of anything business related, right? Like, everyone tells you to think outside the box, but I don't even think it's that. I think it's just the willingness to be uncomfortable and the willingness to just make a fool out of yourself. And it's so funny because one of the first like reels that I posted, because I was like, oh, I'm going to do this social media thing. And it was, an audio clip of Jordan Peterson, who I love. And he was basically saying that, people don't want to be made fools of, but if you want to make progress, you have to be willing to be a little silly. You have to be willing to make mistakes or be a fool in front of other people. You got to put yourself out there. And so I think that's the thing here is that, it's okay to be uncomfortable. And it's actually more than okay to be uncomfortable. Every amazing idea or every amazing thing that I've done in my business, I was just ridiculously uncomfortable the entire time. But I knew that I was moving in the right direction. And I think that's a big part of this relationship with a mentor or with anybody in business as well, is be willing to grow through that and share that with other people. And a mentor is a good place to start, because then maybe one day you can be a mentor for somebody else and you can remember how you felt and then guide somebody else through their discomfort so that they can get to the other side as well.
Well, and I think on both sides of mentorship, whether you're the mentor or you're the one being mentored, there needs to be a level of openness and willingness to accept new ideas because I think as a mentor, you grow as well too, because you're ultimately, that kind of circles back to what we were talking about, it being a mutually beneficial relationship, is that as a mentor, you are also, you're sharing your experience, but you're also getting somebody else's perspective and hearing something else. And so I think there's like a level of openness that is required for both mentor, mentee. But I think when you're in a new experience, just what you said, you have to get uncomfortable and you have to be willing to learn and you have to be willing to get humbled a little bit. And that can be hard to do, but ultimately hearing somebody else's perspectives, especially somebody that you admire, it ends up being so great and so beneficial.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I think thinking of that, I don't think that I am like anybody's mentor, just I don't stay consistent enough, I think, in a sense. But I do have obviously friends in the industry that, maybe their businesses are kind of like, up and coming, and they do, reach out and ask questions from time to time. But I definitely wouldn't consider myself a mentor. And I can agree with that, thinking that those questions make me think about my own business. It definitely gives me something, like when when I do give advice to people on the business, it definitely allows me to consider, like, am I being a hypocrite? Right? Like, I'm not going to give them, I like to be as open and honest, where if it's something that, I'm doing poorly, like, I'm not going to speak from a place that like, oh, I do this amazing thing. Like, no, I'm going to tell you that I do it poorly and then hopefully help you find another resource that does it a hell of a lot better than me. I think I appreciate that in a mentor, or anybody that I'm talking to in a business, is just like, there was this one business coaching group that Bookkeeping for Painters is a partner with, and they have these like brain melds type of a thing where they have like groups of like, 4 to 5 business owners help work through each other's problems, and they come prepared where everybody has like previewed their financial statements. It was very well put together. But one of the rules for these like brain sessions is that you cannot give advice that you have heard of or you've been told has worked. You are only allowed to provide active feedback that you have done yourself or you are doing or you have done. It basically can't be hearsay, right? And so for me, I think that's really important from a mentorship aspect as well, is that like, I want to know what you have done. I don't want to hear that, oh, I heard somebody tried this or tried that. That's not as helpful to me. I think it really needs to be just first person, active. This is between you and I. And that's how I try to think about it as well, is like, I'm not going to, if I'm doing something and it's not the best, that's what you're getting. Because, I can't speak to what other people are doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that kind of goes back to a level of openness when it comes to being a mentor and being a mentee, is accepting I don't know everything. Maybe I can't help you. Maybe I can, but here is what I do know. And being able to, I think there's like a certain level of humility that really both parties have to have when it comes to being a mentor, because ultimately I think it's a way of giving back, and kind of giving the tools of your success to somebody else that you see that possesses the same traits maybe that you had, or maybe they possess them better than you had, to be successful.
Well, I have one more question. So I guess what everybody's question is going to be, how do I get a mentor? So I guess, is it appropriate for people to ask others to mentor them? Like, say, yes, what comes around in the universe happens if it's meant to be. Relationships evolve. Sometimes mentors choose you, but if you want to be more active, how do you go about that?
Oof, that's a good question. I would say definitely in a setting with like-minded people, kind of like our community that we have. I say if you want to ask somebody to be your mentor because if you see them fit to ask, the worst that you're going to get is a no. But on the other side, if you're the person being asked, I also want to say, don't bite off more than you can chew, and exercise those boundaries of, well, here's what I can help you with. Maybe we can chat once a week. We can chat once a month and kind of check in, but mentor to your ability to mentor with great quality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I have to agree with that. I'd say shoot your shot, guys. Like if you want somebody, to mentor you, definitely ask them, but don't be personally offended if they do say no. Because, there's definitely been instances where I would love to talk to people more, but to Hannah's advice, I'm just at capacity. And I recently had someone reach out to me and, they were asking for my advice on a few different things. And if, I could provide any feedback on this certain thing. And I just had to say, I'm sorry, but right now my workload is at capacity and I can't lend any attention to any other projects. But I can recommend that you look into this resource instead. It's not personal, except for it is for me, right? And it's a sense where if, an additional relationship is going to drain me, then it's not that mutually beneficial, right? And I know from a perspective of my own that when I do have the time, I will definitely share that time for sure. So I guess just don't take it personally if they can't do it, but definitely shoot your shot and ask. And I think that, I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry guys, I gave up caffeine.
Oh God.
Do you not know that yet? I've been going through withdrawal symptoms and everything.
Oh
it's been
God.
Absolutely insane.
Oh, on that note, I love bookkeeping.
Don't even cut that part out, guys. Don't edit that out. Yes, guys, I've given up the caffeine and it's been rough, but I'm almost on the other side. I'm on 1 cup a day, but it's not nearly the 2 pots a day that I had been drinking. I know so much. That's why I can't mentor any of you guys. My brain doesn't function without caffeine. I was talking to somebody and I said, I realized that when I gave up caffeine, I am not intelligent. I was just highly caffeinated. I know. Anyway, maybe we should edit this out.
I'm not smart, guys.
Okay.
Just coffee.
Mark that clip.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode on mentorship. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or you just want to talk to us, we always love talking to you. We love talking in general. Please shoot us an email at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Again, that is success@ilovebookkeeping.com. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you for tuning in to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends.